Hello and welcome to another Conversations at the Summit, brought to you by Climb UK. I'm Tanya and it is nearly here. Climb25 is upon us, and on this episode, we'll tell you everything that's in store.
Pilar's got a sheet of paper where she's going to not use this whatever through today.
So, this unscripted.
Sorry about that. I get stopped in the street and people are genuinely excited about what we're going to do, and there's kind of a bit of a mystery around it.
What we're building is really cool, but it's going to get bigger and more exciting, and I think that is, I don't know, you can feel it.
This is proper rock and roll, do you know? I'm a bit nervous about what we're going to do in 2026.
Well, my normally trusty sidekick, Gordon Bateman, is our main guest today, and alongside him is his trusty sidekick, Pilar Rubio. Gordon, you're feeling all uncomfortable, aren't you? As the main guest, you've moved seats.
I know, it's a bit weird being here, and Pilar's got a sheet of paper where she's going to not use this whatever through today. So,
this unscripted.
Absolutely, that's now actually going to be as it really is.
Which sort of brings me to our first question, because when we did our first podcast about what Climb was, and the two of you were with me, you talked about the tears a couple of years ago ahead of Climb23. What's the build-up been like this time? Have we had tears, or is it all smooth and plain sailing?
Have we had tears? No, tears of laughter, I think. It's been a bit of a
delusion.
I do worry there's something around the corner that we've missed because we seem to be... I said, first year was chaos. On a carnage first year. Second year was chaos, not least because the government decided to call an election 2 weeks before the event. And here we are just before the event, and we feel like we're in control, which is kind of cool place to be, really.
Much better.
Yeah.
Definitely, yeah.
Now, pretend he's not here. Maybe when he's not looking have there been tears. When he's not been around, what's it been like for you?
I think... No, I can repeat what he said there in the sense of there's been a clear difference between the first year and then the second year. We've definitely felt a lot more in control this year, and we've done a lot of things way in advance compared to the last 2 years, which gives you that confidence of we're doing much better. We're kind of figuring how things, we've polished things and all our systems and little bits and processes, all the stuff that Gordon hates, we've mastered a lot better, which has made it a lot easier. There's naturally still that hecticness, I think, but that's just when you're creating something so, big, fun and different and new, it's bound to have a lot of little, chaotic moments in between. Otherwise, I think it wouldn't be us really if we did that, because we're trying to do something that's not already out there. So, yeah.
Do you think it's finding its identity? As you said, it was it was carnage the first year. It's this wild, mad idea. But do you feel that the event is growing into its own identity in what that mad idea was at the beginning?
I think so. I think people know who we are, but it is ultra dynamic. So we have to have this ability to be able to flick at any one point. So, and it will evolve every year. I think what I said at the end of 2024 is we won't add anything. That was out the window. That was like that sheet of paper about 2 minutes ago, straight out the window. There was, because the whole world's moving, the situation, the landscape that we're operating in 2025 is very different to 2024. So we've got a lot more partners this year, but our partners have had much tighter budgets, for example. And then as people do get to know us and understand what's happening, more and more guests and more people want to get involved, which is amazing. I mean, I've walked around branded for ever and a day, which is unusual. I'm kind of known for a white shirt and black trousers all my life, and this is different. I get stopped in the street and people are genuinely excited about what we're going to do, and there's kind of a bit of a mystery around it and all of that. So in terms of an identity, yes, but it's not now a copy and paste for next year. It 100% will evolve again in 2026. It took us over a year to put this together. We are full tilt 24/7. It's a very stressful, we say jokingly say there's no tears this year, but it's really stressful.
Yeah, sometimes.
There's a bit of shouting in the office, and I don't know what our neighbours think downstairs of when someone really organised has to work with someone who's really not organised. Can be a bit tense, to say the least. But then we go for a beer afterwards and have a laugh, But that's how it has to be. Otherwise, we will just be another,
you become stagnant. Otherwise, and I think that's a big part of it is the constant, the matching the craziness with we actually need to deliver this element of it. But then that without those kind of clashing moments, which we have at times, I think we wouldn't be able to make the incredible stuff we are coming out with. And I think people can feel that energy. There's been a lot of love and passion gone into what we're building here. And I think that's now I'm starting to see that kind of come through a lot of our partners as well. And like the ideas are coming up. I don't think we've ever said to anyone, no, sir, we can't. That's not possible. I think
that's part of our problem, isn't it? We just go, of course we'll work that.
Most definitely. But I think that's part of the beauty of what we're building here, and what's very exciting, what everyone's going to be seeing next week is that kind of all of that's going to come to life. It's an exciting part.
So before people even arrive here in Leeds Docks, what can they expect?
So the app's live now. So we've invested really heavily in the app. So when we did our launch events a few weeks ago, what's really interesting is someone picked up on this. We don't talk about our agenda and our guest list and the structure. We talk about you. It's like I didn't realise I was doing this. It's just who we are. So it's like your climb journey. When we did a launch, and I was talking about what we were going to deliver. I just went, there's Angus over there. He's this. There's Jamila over there. She did this. That's happened. This has happened. And then someone said, Climb is now a movement, a community. Mm-hmm. So if we want to make that work, we have to use technology to help better connect people. So the first thing is, you can't get into the event now without the app. You absolutely have to have the app, because those who used it last year, and it wasn't anything like the app we've now got, plug for a company called Brella, their app is hugely expensive, but they won't like me saying that, but it is really good. Mm-hmm. So the first thing is that you can see what's going on. It will even suggest who you might connect with. So spending 10, 15 minutes on that app, setting yourself up, is a difference between Climb being a 10 out of 10 for you and Climb being an 11 out of 10. It really is critical that you get that going, I think.
Yeah, preparation. It's definitely key for, when you have like a festival like Climb that has so many exciting moving parts and so many different parts, I think you'd be doing yourself an injustice if you didn't, use that time, currently this week, prepping, going through the app, really looking what's out there. Have you booked yourself into the roundtables you want to attend, or like what sessions are happening? Whatever those key things are, is have you prepped for those? Have you navigated so you're ready for on the day? You make the most out of it, really, I think that's super important.
Pilar's going to kill me for this, but about
Not for the first time.
100%. About 2 weeks ago, she sent me a list of the stage sets to approve. And I just copied and pasted it into LinkedIn and banged it on LinkedIn without any saying, this is what we're doing, kind of. But and then it's like a disclaimer that says subject to change underneath, just because new speakers will come along. And then the comments that came underneath was, how do I choose what to do? Right. And that is the point, is if you go to Glastonbury or you go to a music festival, you can't see every band that's playing. You kind of look at where you're going to get the most value. So that prep time of going through the agenda, our mixer sessions and our workshops are all filling up. The reality is, and I can say this because I am one, I guess, founders are the worst at this, right? We're the worst organised people. We kind of rock up on the day. And this is all geared for people who run their own businesses. And founders leave it to last minute. And then they might get a little bit frustrated going, I couldn't get into that session. All of our mixers we've had to make bigger because they all, for want of a better word, sold out. They're free to attend to every ticket holder. But getting into those, what I call the smaller sessions, being organised, that for the next week, that's what you really want to be doing, is going through that piece. And then getting on LinkedIn or getting on your social media and telling everyone you're coming. So again, we spoke to a lot of people who were there last year, and we asked them about what worked for them really well. And those who'd gone on to LinkedIn and said, I'm going to Climb and I want to meet this little kind of shot to camera. I hate doing these things, but they're a kind of necessary evil. If people know you're there, they'll start connecting. So I think that's the second kind of piece. And the third, which is absolutely never been done before, and I don't know whose idea it was, but it's not mine, but it's pure genius, is that a lot of people will come to Climb with a view that they want to meet investors. Now, investors don't want to be walking around with different lanyards. We've been asked, could we do this? They don't want stands where they're locked in and they have to stand. They'll meet a lot of people. So they are there for deal flow. The investors who are coming, and there's a lot, want to meet companies who are coming to Climb. So we built a virtual expo. So they've now all got every single investor who's registered properly, and there are some who don't, has got a virtual stand in a virtual expo, and that's live now. So you can walk around that expo. You can click on a stand, let's just say Albion Ventures, and you can find out about what they're about. And what we've also allowed, or what we've been given the privilege of with a company called Diligencia, is Diligencia, if you register with them, it will help you in terms of your investment readiness, firstly, and that's free, and that's worth a lot of money in its own right. But when you click on a stand, it will actually recommend which investors for your company, for your stage of investment, that you should go and look at. And then you can use the app to connect with that fund, send them the information that Diligencia has created for you, which is really cool stuff. And then those connections can be made. So via the app, you can start booking appointments with investors before the event even starts. And that virtual expo will be live for a couple of months afterwards. So before the event, in this next week, just actually thinking about Climb you could be one of those people that we bring on stage in 2026 who says, I met someone at Climb and I raised £2 million, just like James did at Autonomo in 2023.
Because the opportunity is there. I think if you're not grabbing it as a founder, like all these tools that are being laid out there, like that's absolutely incredible. Like I can't remember, I've not myself personally gone to any other event where you have access to something like that, where it's literally being given to you in like a golden platter. So I think if you're not making the most of those tools that we're giving you this week, it'd be silly, really. It'd be silly.
And there's loads of them. So Funding Hero, another one of our partners, they have an online CPD course that is a paid for service.
Jargon.
I don't know what it means either, to be honest. Training, I think it is. So it's an online training course, personal development thing. We're giving that to every single founder for free. So for a year, you can use this, and it helps you learn about how to become investment ready as an online training course for a year. So that it costs more than the entire ticket price for Climb. So just that piece alone. So imagine if you've spent a week using that, if you've registered and gone onto it, you've then gone into Diligencia to upload your information about your business. You've gone into Virtual Expo to be able to look at what investors you want to meet. And then you've gone through the agenda for all the other parts of the event. This is proper rock and roll, do you know? I mean, like, it's a year of putting this together, but God, is it good? In fact, to the element where I'm a bit nervous about what we're going to do in 2026, to be honest, because, and I'm sure we'll get onto this in this podcast, but, and I nearly swore very profusely then, but it's scary of how we're going to, this is going to go down as a classic year. People are going to be in 28, 29 going, did you go to the one in 25? I've got goosebumps just even thinking about it right now. It is.
So I'm going to ask you, and I'm going to stop you for a minute. Because apart from anything, we only want this podcast to go on for a certain length. You can't pick out all of the highlights because there's going to be so many. Yeah. So can you pick out 2 or 3, Pilar, that for you really excite you, and if he gives you 5 minutes off, you want to go to?
Yeah, I think there's plenty. There's so many I would definitely love to get involved. There is some stage sets that I would love, again, to attend. You know, there's some that we have on. There's one specifically driving green growth that we have a few very key speakers on that one that I'd love to attend just because of the kind of controversial messages they're going to put across. But of course, you'll be able to. Everyone will be able to do that next week. That'll be definitely one of them. There'll be another on.
You're good to have nicked your sheet now, aren't you?
Yes, I'm like, even though I've written all the titles.
Turn it back. It's in 2 bits.
No, but there's a few. I mean, there's another one. We've got Kirsty Watson, for example. That one I'm super chuffed and excited to see. I mean, that's specifically for some groups that we are bringing that are young adults. We did the last year was a fantastic thing that happened. You know, that what came off it and we kept calling them kids, but they're not kids. They're young adults. They're 17 to 21 year olds, I believe. And we're doing that again this year. But Kirsty Watson's hosting 2 sessions for them, and she focuses on all things, you know, building the confidence and the entrepreneurial aspect of you know those people trying to find what they're going to do after, you know, whatever stage they're kind of going through in life. But she does a lot of work with apprenticeships and stuff. But yeah, really big on that social kind of impact for those kids. So I think I'm really excited to see how that kind of comes out this year. But yeah, again, I can name a few more, but for me, I think is the health tech side of things. So we've got Climb Health this year, which is, I'm super excited about that because obviously it's new. We didn't do that the last 2 years. We've partnered with Medilink and Biono for that, so they're co-delivering that space, which is going to have an absolutely incredible agenda. So I think if you're in the world of health tech, med tech, biotech, if you're not there, again, you're missing out on big stuff. So
I almost feel like I should put a stopwatch on you, Gordon, when I ask you, can we restrict you to 3, maybe?
It's hard.
So I'll kind of take it at a higher level, because one of the things we set out to do, which I think we've actually done, is make every single set worth the entire ticket price. So if you only get to one thing, that's the ticket price. You know, there's a load of stuff on social impact. The health pavilion, Climb Health, it's just the right time. And for this region, for Yorkshire, this is our superpower of a sector. So what Pilar's put together with BioNow and Medilink in that sector is amazing. I think there's fantastic things about every aspect of running your business. So we've got guests coming over from the US, big names in sports, in technology, in entertainment, who are joining our sessions. We've got some really good case studies of which are going to shake people, you know, that they're not the norm. I call this now an event with teeth. I was asked to speak at an event in Cornwall earlier in the year, and people said it was just all platitudes, no one could actually say anything. And I was like, F that, that's not what we do. We actually say it as it is. You know, a good friend of mine is Kim Scott. She has a business called Radical Candor, and it's about saying it as it is. That's what we've got, this opportunity. Every stage has got an investor, successful entrepreneur, a thought leader, you know, a business leader built within it. So you're hearing from multiple perspectives. So I can't pick one out, because if you go in there to raise investment, there's 101 things you can get involved in if you're out there. If you want going to personally develop yourself and learn how to develop your own career and your own stuff, there's 101 streams in that. I was asked to do a session a few weeks ago with an investor to talk about talent and people. And I said, you've given me 40 minutes. We've got about 30 hours of content of that at Climb. Just anything people related. We've got a venture studio to about anything tech. So in any one stream, any one track that someone goes with, I just couldn't. The reason why I'm not going to give you a list of 100 is because I'd have to list them all. I can't pull any out that go, wow, that's game changing. The one that I am the most excited about is us doing this live. Because it'll be carnage, and that's what I really want to do.
Can I just say I might be sick on that day? Yeah, I mean, like, there'll be a heck of an outtakes tape, but it's live, so they aren't outtakes.
Yeah.
Trying to keep you controlled is going to be an absolute nightmare.
Which is exactly why I'm excited about that.
I might swap places with producer Nick and make him come and present.
Might be safer.
We've got an entire podcast on the whole social impact piece, and people should go back and listen to that with Paula Chamberlain, but just emphasise how important and how much that has grown through Climb and why it's so important to you all.
Yeah, I can see like a clear trajectory from like last year. There was a lot of different things that meant a lot to us, but we, you know, last year being the second year, we were so busy. It was hard to almost kind of keep a hand on like all the things that you wanted to make sure you did. But like this year, we've definitely gone on that trajectory where we've been surrounded for a lot more and more people doing all those key bits within those areas that matter to us most. And I think we've had the time to push that further out. And I think, that's one of the things that's super exciting about Climb25, this year is we've got the zone. So we've got the cyber, we've got the tech, the impact zone, we've got the people zone, we've got other areas as well. But like those in its own right have an incredible agenda, each of them bringing incredible content and pieces that are going to be super exciting. And it's going to bring that, I think, that dynamic that we have in our expo area, which is very unique, I think, because like you've said many times, we're not about, going to an exhibition space and like grab a few pens and then that's that. That's not what we want from it. So I think this year, next week's going to be quite a fiery place to
Can
be.
I just say I'm a bit upset about the pens? I like stealing a pen. Wherever I go, I swipe
too.
a pen.
Yeah.
As long as there are still pens,
I'm sure we'll sprinkle a few around, but
Exactly. I think why the social mobility and social impact piece is important to us is that's kind of where this came from. I've always said this, if we did a conference on social mobility, the only people who would rock up are people who are already bought into the business. I say this from my own experience, but I'm often the token bloke at the Women in Business events, and because we embed it across everything. But more important than that, I think, is that everyone gets on board with it. So we don't have rakes of paid speakers. So if you look at South by Southwest, they've got loads of great name speakers. They've paid a shed load of money to get into their venue and they're going to talk. And that's great. You pay £1,000 a ticket to get there. We don't pay our speakers. The reason why they come is because they're passionate about the subjects that they're talking about and they get it. So that's nothing to do with about cost. That's about the content that comes out of their mouths. This is actually meaningful stuff. It's not, I've got to read this script because I'm getting paid 10, 20, 30 grand to do so. It's, I'm going to tell you what I think because I'm passionate about it. We've got Jennifer Byrne coming over from Phoenix to talk about her journey and her story. So that the fact that we are about inclusivity, the fact that our ticket price at the peak is £250, not £1,000, means this is inclusive and accessible to anyone who cares about their business. All of that builds the environment, builds the energy, builds the honesty, and builds that teeth that comes out because people are there because they care. And so I think all of that matters. We tested a lot of stuff in 2024. The reason why it's so much bigger in 25 is because it all worked. So we thought, we'll test all these bits. And as you said, they're not like it was a bit chaotic and to see where they work, but they all worked. We had 40 young people come last year. It's 120 this year. We had an impact zone that we'd created on the fly in a meeting and we've discussed in other sessions that is now fully organised. It's structured. We've got EY Foundation as a partner. We're going to be talking a lot around social mobility ventures, i.e. how to get more social mobility into the ventures. And of course, we haven't even talked about the roundtables and workshops and masterclasses that we're hosting as well. And all of those, all the impact is baked into everything. Because if you haven't got impact in your business, if you're just doing a business now to make cash, you ain't going to survive. We've talked about that on previous podcasts and we'll be talking about that a lot in business. If you want to be managing and engaging and retaining top flight talent, this is important. So yeah, and we're adding new stuff in.
I was going to ask you what's different, but you've given a pretty good idea of it. It's 2024, but with so many more knobs on basically and with a degree of, I don't know, technology, professionalism in terms of just the whole tech side of what you're using as much as necessarily what other people are accessing.
If a big event, as we get bigger, it could become arguably difficult to make connections. So in any one event of 2 days, you're going to get, 50 people that you can meet, and have meaningful conversations with. But if there's 4,000 people there, how do you get to those 50? So the big thing we set out in June 2024 when we started creating this was that connections piece had to be at the middle. Climb is not an event where you go and sit in an auditorium and just listen and be talked at. It's an event where you make connections and relationships and whatever. So the big difference this year has been, how do we make that easier and more effective for people? Those who use the technology last year, and our technology wasn't great last year, got a lot more of a benefit. So that's the big difference, is making sure front and center of what we do is how do we help people better connect. Content wise in structure, it's the same. Main stages, and we had amazing guests last year. We've got amazing guests this year. We've got the workshops, masterclasses, roundtable. Absolutely. We've got 6 mixers, I think, now, as opposed to 1 that we had last year, which are networking events where we bring people together with a common interest into a space. But it's all about the big upswing, I think, in 25 over 24 is making those connections better. Our audience, our delegate list is to die for. Our guest list, our speaker list is amazing. 200 really top flight professionals who, again, I kind of get goosebumps when I think about who's giving their time to come and do this. But it's the people you meet in the street, the impromptu stuff.
Definitely.
That's where we've put a lot more emphasis this year, I think.
We're already kind of started to talk about 2026, but Climb is now becoming something that isn't just the 2-day event, isn't it? I mean, I sort of hate to ask you this, Pilar, when you're in the midst of all of everything you're in for, but what more is in store for Climb once the 2 days of July is done?
So that I think we have a much clearer view in a way, not in all ways, but then last year, I think when I look back at June 2024 and we're like, oh, what's happening after, we finished Climb? It was almost like, just come back to life, survive, just rest a bit. We weren't thinking, it was just all going so fast. Whereas this year, we already have, we're already discussing, okay, once Climb25 is done, this is all what we're going to be doing. We've got obviously the podcast happening. We've got stuff that we're planning through for obviously the Climb, which I'll let obviously Gordon touch upon that, but things that we're going to be organizing in January, hopefully February, whenever we obviously set the exact date for that. But we've got autumn sessions as well. There's so much already. We're planning with a lot of our partners, as well as obviously ourselves planning other things. There's a much clearer kind of strategy and I guess roadmap in place, which is exciting. I think that's been a key part for everyone in the team is I think that's what made us have less tears this year. It's when stuff hits the fan, for a better way of saying it. And when we get really kind of chaotic and then, you're there until whatever time trying to figure something out for what we're building for next week. Having that clear path of we have all these exciting bits kind of planned that are going to happen straight after Climb, it does give you that kind of energy of what we're building is really cool, but it's going to get bigger and more exciting. And I think that if you're passionate about what you do, which I am, I think that gives you that clarity of I don't know, you can feel it. You can feel the energy of I don't know, that this is.
And I come back to a question I asked earlier about the identity of it, that it's growing into something that isn't just an event, isn't it? It feels, it was an event and it was an incredible event. It became an event again, but it's building into something that's more of as you've said, a movement.
Yeah, and I think there's some things that we need to be clear on. So Leeds is our home, right? God, emotion goes like mad in these things. Leeds is our home. We're not moving from here. So we already have booked 2026 and 27 to be in the same venue. And the only thing that would stop us using the same venue is we outgrow it. And we are hell-bent that this is our home, but Climb is bigger than us now. So Climb is a movement. Climb is a community. And there's a number of things that we will announce as part of our launch on day one. That we're going to talk about the coming year. Pilar's just touched on some of these, but some of the things stay live. One of the things that drives me insane, I went to the event I was speaking about in Cornwall. I got home at the end of the event and went onto the app for the first time because I didn't have a chance to do this at the event and then switched it off. Great. That's now when I want to connect with the people I didn't manage to meet at the event. Ours stays live for months. Our virtual expo will stay live for months so that people can stay as part of our community. We will announce speakers for 2026 next week. People will know about you'll be able to buy show price tickets, a specialist ticket at the show for 2026. This is like any other big international grade event. You can whack it in your diary now, the first week in July, kind of end of June, in early July, because it'll overlap. But that Wednesday, Thursday of that week for the next forever is Climb. That's what you come to. And again, the autumn sessions. So we got a lot of energy coming out of Climb or at Climb last year, people going, what's next? So we thought, well, we'll build what's next. So we have our autumn sessions where there'll be mini events on specific things. We are going to deliver Climb in the United Arab Emirates. Debate is currently going on if that's in Dubai or Abu Dhabi. And we are going to the US. And some people have asked me, well, you're still doing this in the UK. It's like, yeah, but we're getting so much interest now internationally. We've got to do this.
When you talk about, Leeds is our home, this is where we're from.
Yeah.
When you take it somewhere else, it's still Leeds, isn't it? You're still talking about the north of England, the powerhouse up here, the talent that's up here, because this is home. This is where it's coming from.
And again, I think we talk a lot about the social impact piece because it's really important, but there's actually 3 commercial, economic pillars to Climb. Firstly is there's awesome businesses all around the UK outside of London and Cambridge that often don't get noticed because they're not in that natural ecosystem. And so we've got to shine a light on all of those regions, and Climb is a great place to do that. So how do we better support? How do we better showcase? How do we accelerate the growth of these amazing businesses that are in those regions? Secondly, how do we bring more investment to those regions, more money? How do we better connect the regional ecosystems with national, international investors? I've never said this a lot. It's a soapbox. I've never been in a meeting where an investor says you're in the wrong city. And then the third pillar is how do we bring more international people from outside, more businesses into these regions? So when companies look to come into the UK, the vast majority will head south. And that's because it's difficult to navigate up here. So how do we help and facilitate those? So from an economic perspective, those 3 pillars, supporting and better supporting regional businesses, getting them access to world-class support, getting access to money in the region. So whenever we go away, the Dubai trip is to take 100 companies from the regions to UAE. Will be taking 100 companies from here over there who are genuinely interested in, ready for, and able to either export or internationalise their business. This isn't going to be a business holiday. So that's where we're coming from.
That is all for the future. The very best of luck for the next week. I can't wait. I'm glad to say I'm going to be there.
I thought you were going to say, I can't come.
I would have lagged you that on a week before.
Heart attack.
I might not be able to make it to the live podcast. That is worrying me a little bit. Most importantly, are there still tickets available, or are we a sellout already?
We're close to, but because we don't want this thing to get too big. But yeah, if you go to the Climb website, so it's climb-uk.com, you can still get tickets at a bargain price of £250. So yeah, 100% get. We had people last year buying tickets for day 2 because they'd seen people on day 1. So very much so, there's still the opportunity to come.
Yeah.
Oh, it's all so exciting. I can't wait. I'm looking forward to being there. Thank you very much for inviting me. And I'm not entirely sure about the live podcast.
You're not
might not be quite available for that one. We shall see how that goes.
It'll be amazing.
It'll be something. It'll be quite something. Please do come and join us at Climb UK if you possibly can. We will have the podcast throughout, and there'll be podcast after, so you'll get a flavour if you can't come along to it. But there will be plenty of conversations at the summit in Leeds for the 2 days.